From the unexplained to the mundane, come join us on a journey to the fringe. Hello and welcome to Journey to the Fringe, where, I guess anybody can write a letter, just all the time to somebody who's not going to respond, and anyhow, that's the story I'm kind of getting at this point. Hey, Chelsea, what are we doing right now?
Okay, thank God we're at the end of the story and the beginning of the next episode. I'm shaking things up on this episode, and I'm starting by asking you, Taylor, what are your thoughts about the Manhattan Abduction story? Which I think I've only called it here for the very first time on the third episode.
Okay. Well, Chelsea, you've actually mentioned that at least once before this.
Okay. But I think it was when we were saving the episodes.
Yeah, maybe. Anyhow, I find Dan and Richard to be very weird individuals who keep really bugging one guy who will not respond to them.
Well, he does respond.
Well, he does, but at the same time,
he tries to interview them and stuff.
But I feel like I know Dan and Richard way more than I do Bud Hopkins. I guess true. That is, you specifically said, you're going to do, Bud Hopkins would be his own episode at some point in the future. Yes.
Yeah.
But, it feels like they're just going so hard at this story, and, I don't know. It feels like they're tangentially involved in what may be a UFO story, but, it just keeps going, and they're pushing it, and they go from, what I thought were respected people in the community to just nope, they're harassing this woman.
Yeah. Do you get any other feelings about them, being involved with the UN Secretary General, their security?
I don't understand that relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe security was a different thing back in the past, but I feel like any current UN Secretary General would not have friends named Danny and Richard just by his side doing fun stuff.
And what do you make of Linda's abduction story?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I just it's hard to say, just because first off, it's hard to say whether or not somebody's lying or not in these stories.
Yeah.
The fact that these people are backing it up is one thing, but at the same time they're very weird. Their backing up of the story I find very not disturbing, but maybe perturbing's the right word for it, where it's why are they so adamantly involved in this story?
Yeah. I got a lot of weird feelings from it.
Yeah, I think it's just these are weird vibes I'm getting from the story as we keep going, which is weird because I do know that the Manhattan Abduction, but I don't know this part of it where it gets uncomfortably continued.
Yeah.
Maybe is the right way to put it.
Yeah, and I don't know why I never heard of that either. I was familiar with the girl floating out of her window and everything, but I never had it continue on. And this is the known whole part of the story. And I do realize now in my retelling, now that you say that, it does seem like Bud Hopkins did not play a huge role in this, but he did. He was the central investigator along this. He interviews all the 23 witnesses. He's trying to track down everybody and find Richard and Dan. He wants to talk to them. I guess I didn't put him in the story as much as he should have.
No, and I get it because you're saying he's going to have his own episode at some point. But yeah, it kind of felt like Dan and Richard were reaching out on their own repeatedly.
They were. Just Linda reached out to him after everything. He was doing all the hypnosis regressions and stuff like that. He was the main contact. So he does play a huge role in this, and if he gets his own episode or not, we're not going to cover this episode. Maybe we'll touch on it a little in a future episode, but he does play a huge role in this. I guess just Richard and Dan's letters really took front and center on this, and you really did a show-stopping performance on it. Anything else? You kind of.
Well, I'm just happy they weren't Italian. Like, if that happened,
they actually did have, like, well, at least in the Netflix retelling, they had, like, I wasn't going to tell you what kind of accent they had, God. But it was like a strong New York accent, now that you're done reading. So I did pick up on a lot of stuff just as I went through the story and I was making the script. Maybe I was paying a little bit more closer attention because I was making the script going through the story. But as I went through it before I looked at the critiques, I wrote down my own thoughts, which I'm going to go through now. And you tell me what you think of these as we go. I did find the witnesses super fishy. If I didn't know better myself, the letters are way too convenient. First of all, I know Bud Hopkins is the most renowned abduction dude. However, way too big of a coincidence that these people just so happened to reach out to Bud Hopkins, who just so happened to have been investigating Linda. Not only to reach out to him in the first place, but also for them to continue writing and explaining their actions to Bud Hopkins.
That is the so weird part where they start out like, oh yeah, we were like police officers, and then they just keep doing it.
Like this narrating their actions, right?
Yes.
They're narrating what's happening to Bud. Why did they reach out to him in the first place?
Yeah, it's super weird.
Why? And not only that, but they continue. And I find that in and of itself to be the most prominent red flag and is hugely detached from reality and anything that would actually happen in real life. And I find some of the things they say super strange. For example, when Danny writes his letter and he says there's a cover-up going on. From the information we've been given, that he has only witnessed Linda floating outside her window. How could he possibly think a cover-up is going on? And it seems to take incredible leaps in between letters and escalating. And I wouldn't expect that he had spoken to anyone else about this, given the embarrassment and shame they speak about. Also, how would they know the exact apartment Linda was in to find her? Do you find that weird?
I do, and the fact that they stalk her from there on out.
Yeah, like, does it make sense to you at all that having witnessed something like that, right at that exact moment, on however many stories tall a building is, to make note somehow of exactly what floor she was on? No.
Yeah, I can't say that's something I would make note of when I'm, like, watching somebody get abducted through a window.
Something life-altering? Exactly. Into a UFO spaceship?
But at the same time, that was your soulmate. I can't remember which one of them.
Baby
but one
Ann.
of them was like, yeah, that's my soulmate.
That's
I need to know which one. Yeah. I need to know which room she's in so that I can go back to her very awkwardly and tell her this.
But, like, it's dark. Like, exact building? Yeah, I'll give them that. But I call bullshit unless it's at, like, the very top floor or something. Maybe it was the top floor. And still, it would have to have been less than a minute time frame to catch that. And wouldn't they go directly to Linda first instead of Bud Hopkins? Right?
Yeah.
And don't you think that if they didn't want to be identified, that these guys wouldn't be using their boss's highly identifiable UN car to kidnap someone? And that they wouldn't, for apparently no reason at all, be updating Bud Hopkins on a kidnapping with literally everything they're doing, and essentially
and including
narrating.
Their boss in this too.
Yes. And speaking of that, this is an infamous case within the UFO community, being that these guys were the security details for a pretty high up political figure, that this would not have come to light, that they kidnapped somebody in a work vehicle and, like, had some repercussions to their work life. Apparently not. The boss was just like, take my UN license plates, go kidnap someone, doesn't matter. And remember when I said it was a weird detail about the random tape included with a letter?
Yeah.
Why the fuck else would that be included other than having a voice that wasn't Linda's on tape for evidence? Easy enough to ask a friend for a one-time favor, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when they don't know her in any way.
Yeah.
Prior to that. Like,
yeah.
The fact that you're mentioning that now makes a lot of sense that, oh, these are completely third-party fuckers.
Doesn't it
not the...
Does it seem... It seems misplaced.
Yeah.
I hope this helps. here's my voice on a letter. And it's almost like it is trying to jump to providing evidence before it's asked for.
Yeah, well, not only that, like providing evidence that would disprove your thing prior to.
Yeah, that's true.
That wouldn't normally be gotten.
It seems
like,
weird.
Like, you don't think I met her? Like, you don't think I have a girlfriend in Canada? Well, here's her centerfold in the Playboy, like. You fucking idiots.
Yeah. That is what it feels
Here's her voice on my voicemail that she sent me before you even ask for it.
So Bud presses her for witnesses to these two men when they showed up at the apartment building. She says, did anyone see them when they came into the apartment building? Anyone at all that may have seen them. And it was a no, so just conveniently a tape shows up. That was an immediate red flag for me. And like, where's this tape coming? Like, why? It's unsolicited. Why would you say, I hope this helps? Here's a tape. It's almost as if this was fabricated, and this little note in one of their letters immediately makes me think it was Linda. Tell me if you get the same vibes. This is where I thought it the first time. It wasn't the tape. Okay. Quote, P.S. Linda is a darling little lady. End quote. The way they were describing Linda's heart-shaped lips doesn't read as believable. If you want to give thoughts or letters for whatever motivation they may have had, these are 100% not details that are going to be included. 100 million % not going to be included. Linda's a darling lady. Who is going to put something like that?
It is really weird how sexualized she is as somebody who's being abducted.
Yeah. So these details of how they're describing Linda.
Yeah.
It's Linda to me. It's Linda writing these letters. Do you get the same vibes just being what I'm saying, or?
Yeah, I get that.
It's my opinion, but that's what I get from it. I don't think these are things that people are going to be looking to, especially men. I don't think they're details that they are going to be looking to include.
Oh, okay.
In eyewitness.
No, that's fair. I was getting a different thing in that, like, I felt like these guys who were writing this letter were too sexualizing of her. But it makes sense that she would be writing these in this very specific way to make her seem like
that's what I'm saying.
A more exemplary, iconic figure. Iconic figure is a good way to put it.
It could also be playing to her ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be a lot of things, but I don't think those are details someone's going to put.
Didn't Bud Hopkins talk to them?
No.
Oh, I thought he did. No. I don't know why.
No.
Okay.
So, like I said, those are my thoughts. I wrote them all down as I was going through the story before.
That makes a lot of sense when you put it that way.
Yeah. It stood out like a sore thumb to me, the way that they were speaking about Linda. So before I looked at the skeptics, which I'm going to go into now, what other people say about this, it reads to me, in my opinion, as a love story that Linda wrote.
To herself.
What do you think of my theory?
I like that a lot. It sounds a lot better than how I was trying to hamstring together these guys awkwardly explaining how much they love this woman.
Yeah.
And it makes so much more sense once you say, she made this up. Oh, yeah.
No, I think
a lot more.
I think it's her.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into the actual skeptics. I had a great source for this. You know, usually I'll use multiple sources for something. I had a great source that just so beautifully encapsulated all of this. I used it mainly for the whole thing. So there is a whole debunk done on this case by Joseph Stefula, Richard Butler, and George Hansen, called A Critique of Bud Hopkins' Case of the UFO Abduction of Linda Napolitano. I'm going to put it into the episode notes if you want to have a look through. They did a fantastic job. In reaction to their conclusion, Hopkins went on the record saying he thought that they were CIA agents, and were met with a strange reaction from the higher-ups in MUFON, who aggressively tried to dissuade them from continuing their investigation. Specifically, that's Jerome Clark and Walter Andrus. I wanted to name them just so that you know who we're talking about that tried to get them not to publish this, and potential for future episodes. They also interviewed Linda for this. Let's get into it. The only real witness to any of this is Linda. Though they did send one audio tape, and while I wasn't able to find these, apparently other people have heard them as well. It doesn't discount paying somebody to do it, in my opinion. And other witnesses came forward, yes. However, there were no first-hand accounts that were verified in person, and we will talk about that a little more in a bit. Nobody actually saw her with their own eyes floating out of her window that Bud Hopkins or anyone else actually talked to. Napolitano had already been in contact with Hopkins prior to these encounters happening, if you don't remember that. Though, she did recount that it had been happening since she was a child. She did have a huge interest in UFOs going into this before she even contacted Bud Hopkins. And she just so happened to be in contact with him when this happened. She did do a lot of talk show appearances, including Oprah. She did the UFO circuit.
Oh, of course she did.
The MUFON Symposium.
Oprah did more damage than we really care to admit to society.
Yeah, well, Behind the Bastards did a fantastic couple episode on Oprah. It was really good. Highly recommend it. And of course, Behind the Bastards, such a good podcast. So she did the MUFON Symposium with Bud Hopkins. It did get a lot of attention at the time, and could probably tell she enjoyed the spotlight. If you're looking at it from a different angle now of her having written these, maybe you think she thinks very highly of herself. And
you really have to go to a point of like how much of the stuff that Oprah had on there, even like not dissected, like we know a ton of them were fake.
That's
how
true.
many of the ones who didn't fully admit they were fake?
That's true.
Like we don't know.
That's true. Moving on, it's pretty obvious that witnesses Richard and Dan probably don't exist. Hopkins never met them. They refused to meet him despite supposedly being desperate to confirm Linda was alive. There were no independent evidence that they existed. Nobody else had eyes on them other than Linda. Their stories did change repeatedly, and they were supposedly mentally unstable, yet still driving UN-plated vehicles and wielding weapons, probably, if they're in that position at that time.
But to be fair, they're Americans, so like it's not
That's
unheard
true.
of for an unstable American to wield a weapon.
That's true. It's almost like commonplace. It's like you're expected to.
It's actually more expected to be wielding a weapon at that point.
Moving on, the VIP witness, Perez de Cuellar, is unverified and implausible. The idea that the Secretary General was being driven around New York City at 3 a.m. with 2 unstable bodyguards? Highly unlikely. Hopkins never verified any of this either, other than some like questions asked. The United Nations Secretary General Javier Perez de Cuellar, his office, according to Magonia magazine, confirmed that he was safe at home at the hour. In international UFO reporter Greg Sandow, composer, critic, and UFO researcher of this case, quoted that Cuellar's letter to PBS, "I cannot but strongly deny the claim that I have had an abduction experience." But that is what somebody would say who has been through an abduction experience.
And visited by the Men in Black, so.
Exactly. So I can't
We've
totally
done a Men in Black
out.
episode, right?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
I can't
good.
totally rule him out based on this information.
He may or may not be a liar, but the whole question
It's
is
true.
how much he knows he's lying versus how much he's being feared into lying.
It's true. Next, the Brooklyn Bridge witness, Janet Kimball, is also highly questionable. Hopkins didn't vet her either, so weird. No other witnesses from the bridge came forward, even though she says that they were running around like mad people thinking the world was ending. There were no police reports filed. There were no traffic disruptions recorded. Her story contains dramatic but implausible details, such as her shielding her eyes from a UFO a quarter mile away. A handwriting analysis done for Janet, who was the witness on the one we're talking about, obviously. It matched Linda's.
Yeah.
So, again...
Yeah, it's all feeling about that right now.
And, again... why did she go to Hopkins if she didn't even ask anyone else about it? Another coincidence that someone just so happened to contact the very same UFO investigator who was already working with Linda. Too many coincidences. Too many. And I would go out on a limb to say not a single witness by chance contacted another UFO reporter. I would go out on a limb. And I mean, if this isn't enough, the immediate red flag to me was when the initial letter wasn't open, so she sent another one that said confidential regarding Brooklyn Bridge so that he would open it. This story is so highly regarded, it's just mind-blowing to me. Let's go to the nasal implant x-ray. It's suspicious. The doctor who took the x-ray is unnamed. No medical report exists. The doctor was nervous and refused to discuss it. Hopkins showed it only to his neurosurgeon friend. And the author notes it's entirely possible Linda inserted something into her own nose. Who was the doctor who took the x-rays? We are only told that this person is closely connected with Linda. Why isn't a formal report available? Given the alarming nature of the outcome, why wasn't there an immediate examination? Linda said that the doctor was nervous and didn't want to talk about the x-ray. It's not clear whether Hopkins has ever met this alleged doctor. Instead, Hopkins shows it to his friend.
Yeah, makes sense. That's what I would do.
Yeah. What do
Just
you
show
think
your
about
friend.
this?
No, nobody else.
Some have speculated that Linda may have simply just put a small object in her nose and had a friendly x-ray technician assist. And I'm not a doctor, but if you look at this x-ray, this is why I was trying to get the picture of the x-ray. It seems far more likely she put something in her nose in that location than that an implant was placed there. It would have been, if you put your finger in your nose, it's like literally there. It's not like in a location where you'd be like, okay, like you couldn't just put something there. And why would they put an implant like right where you can put your finger in your nose? Like that's where it was showing, like right in that, like, I don't even know what to call that. It's not a nasal cavity because it's not that far up.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it.
I know.
Yeah.
It just seems like right there, which would not be hard to fake, in my opinion. Linda's additional claims raise more red flags. During interviews, Linda has also said she found CIA stationery in the beach house, which doesn't align with what Richard and Dan have said that they were, which was a security detail for the UN. She believed her blood cells don't die, but they rejuvenate. A doctor told her, but she was never able to track that doctor down again. She thought she might be part alien. She once had a hit record under the name Lynn Long, but lost her voice in the shower. She does play her hit record on the Netflix special and lip sync and dance to it. It's super weird segment.
Okay.
She and Hopkins agreed to split profits from his book. She said this. Exact profits vary based on the interview. And when asked about it, Hopkins denied that there was any such arrangement to split profits. And Linda then claimed that she had deliberately planted disinformation. She was descended from Joan of Arc. She was summoned to a private meeting with the Pope. And she was in the World Trade Center in 9/11.
I mean, she could, like, there's nothing that says she couldn't have done all those things other than the fact that she didn't.
Yeah, that's true. Well, she might have that hit record, maybe.
Maybe. We couldn't find it. Despite the fact that looking at hit records that have come out.
Well, she did sing and dance to it on the Netflix special, so I don't know.
Okay.
The authors note that these are signs of fantasy, confabulation, or attention-seeking.
Yeah, no, that's
evidence.
Very generally a sign of mental illness, like the delusion of grandeur that she's really been on.
Yeah, no, it's really looking at her talking and stuff on the net. It could be mental illness. Investigators, of course, did on-the-ground checks for this report that I'm pulling from, if you need a reminder.
Of course.
And what they found seems to contradict her story. When they visited the actual locations, they found in Linda's complex 24-hour security. The guards had never heard of any UFO event, even though there were multiple witnesses. And there are over 1,600 residents at that apartment complex alone. And the police do not routinely canvass the building, contradicting Linda's statement. Under the FDR Bridge, the area very close to Linda's apartment, where you would have had a clear view of this abduction, it houses the New York Post loading dock and is busy all night through until 5 a.m. with trucks going in and out. The New York Post loading dock workers saw nothing and there were no reports of UFOs hovering 2 blocks away. At the downtown heliport, they checked the records. No helicopter movements at the time of the alleged VIP transport. Flights are only operating between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And even if there were to be a special flight, there is nothing in the flight logs from November 30th, 1989 on off hours. Moving on to Hopkins investigative failures. Hopkins never checked weather conditions. It's important because if the weather had been foggy, rainy, or snowing, the visibility could have been greatly hampered, and the reliability of basic testimony of the witnesses would need to be evaluated accordingly. It's a basic investigatory step, and he never did it. He never verified witness backgrounds. He never confirmed police canvassing. He never verified the doctor or x-ray directly, only with a doctor friend of his. He never met the key witnesses, and witnesses were never independently verified. He accepted the letters at face value. He ignored contradictions. He allowed Linda's story to balloon unchecked. He only included interviews which supported his premise. Bud hated debunkers, and he wanted to prove that this phenomenon existed. And his ex-wife Carol felt his investigations lacked objectivity. They portray him as credulous, sloppy, and overly invested in proving abductions are real, and his methods have been questioned in other abduction investigations.
Yeah, I kind of got that from where we were at. The fact that you said he never actually talked to Dan or Richie.
Yep. Yeah.
Who continuously were like, oh yeah, this is a big deal. We saw everything. You should probably talk to us.
Well, they also refused. He tried to talk to them as well.
I know, but that is a huge red flag.
Yes. He should have seen the red flags. I mean, I could see it and I wasn't involved with it.
Yep.
I would love to do a Bud Hopkins episode based on this information. I think it would be a good asshole one, but I also think that Bud is a guy who had a genuine passion for the research he was doing, and he wanted to believe it from this case. It does not appear that he had a skeptical bone in his body in regards to this phenomenon. It does not appear that he was in on the lie. It kind of appears like he just rolled with it. Yeah. He did support this cause. Like, he held abductee support groups in his apartment. He never accepted any money for the research he was doing, the hypnotizing he was doing, any of that stuff. So I don't think it was him lying about it. In my feeling, it is Linda. So let's jump back to Bud's ex-wife for a second, Carol. And in the Netflix documentary, one of the first words spoken on this documentary is by Linda, calling her a disgruntled, bitchy ex-wife.
Oh, good.
Linda is also chain smoking the entire time. In case you're curious, it kind of reminded me of the Johnny Carson part for the Uri Geller episode.
Yeah, where he has constantly a cigarette,
just a cigarette in his hand. And Linda's the same in this Netflix documentary. Even they show old footage that Carol took of her. I'll get into it a little bit, but she just always has a cigarette in her hand. So Carol, the ex-wife of Bud Hopkins is dead now. Carol actually just passed away recently as well. Carol made documentaries, and before she met Bud, she made scientific documentaries based on logic and reason.
And cigarettes.
And yep. And she made these documentaries. So she, alongside Bud, her husband, was documenting this major UFO case that was supposed to be the UFO abduction case of the century. And obviously Linda and Carol become mortal enemies based on what Linda said about her. I'm guessing solely because Carol, more scientifically inclined, is now skeptical of Linda's story. And she wasn't initially skeptical of it. Carol straight up says that Linda's a liar. Carol worked alongside Bud, helping document and organize Bud's research. Here are a few things that Carol points out. She noticed Linda presented information differently than literally anyone else under hypnosis. She had a clear, coherent narrative, whereas others were kind of scattered, searching for information, and she just came up with it readily. Remember back when Linda's son was hypnotized? Well, Carol also said that Johnny Linda's son, pauses kind of searching for information and even kind of corrects the information he's giving as if he was coached. They interviewed Linda's husband at one point, and it was kind of the same situation with him. Linda would fill in the blanks of things that he couldn't quite remember and stuff like that. And I will say they do have the son on the documentary. His face is covered. He didn't want to be recognized. He probably, honestly, I believed him the most out of anybody, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't. Yeah. When Carol brought up to Bud that he may have been coached, Johnny, that is, he got very upset and said that she should keep those ideas to herself. She also argues that Bud was committed to it by going public with it, so he couldn't turn around and say it wasn't true and face, the repercussions of something like that within the community. And on that train of thought, that he was trying to present a compelling story for a potential book-to-movie blockbuster deal, and Linda was making it crazier and coming up with new things consistently, so he wasn't going to say anything about that because it was really contributing to making it a good book. And he liked that. She also said that Bud cherry-picked details and left things out that would create any questioning. Some of the witnesses Bud interviewed were questionable with what they had witnessed. One of the witnesses only saw a bright light through the curtains. That's one of the 23 witnesses. She never opened the curtains to see what was there.
Okay, yeah.
They have the video.
Oh, I saw a bright light. That's it. Yeah, okay.
That's it. Never opened the curtains. Yep.
Could have been a car with high beams going by.
Absolutely. She never opened the curtains to see. She also, and Bud used that as one of the witnesses. She also contends that Dana and Richard are paid actors.
Yeah. Okay.
So because their voice is on audio, there's obviously actors or something. I will say there are arguments against Carol. The main one that I hear is that she's jealous. I don't think I believe that. I think if you're going to call out anything, there are other things to look at other than jealousy. But she does also slam Hopkins a lot for his work and has some pretty harsh words against his research, so I could see why they got divorced. Anyhow, she ended up writing an article on how it was a hoax online right after Bud's book was published.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
The balls on her to do that. That's so funny. Right against your husband's work. I thought that was...
Wait, they were still married at that time?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, wow, good for her.
I know. So, critics also point out the urban setting makes an unnoticed UFO event very unlikely. The case's reliance on Hopkins, whose methods have been questioned in other abduction investigations. Linda's cousin Connie was with her when Linda said someone tried to kidnap her. Bud asked to speak with her, and Linda had her call him. When Bud got off the phone, he had a sour look on his face. When his wife asked him what's up, he said, "Linda just called me pretending to be Connie." A kidnapping should be reported to the police. It's a felony. At the MUFON symposium, Linda was asked if she had reported the kidnapping to the police. She said that she had not, and went on to say that the kidnapping was legal because it had to do with national security.
Jesus, these MUFON cases. We don't know enough about the low points of MUFON. We don't. We can't have come across the lowest points.
I know. No, I don't think we have. MUFON maybe needs an episode. I don't think that's on our list. Yeah. And they talk to professionals. The actual way security details and transport are handled for diplomats of this level are not even close to what's described in this recounting. And it strangely seems to resemble a science fiction novel, Night Eyes, by Garfield Reeves Stevens. The work was first published in April 1989, a few months before Linda claimed to have been abducted from her apartment, and I'm just going to read a few similarities for you here. Buckle up. Linda was abducted into a UFO hovering over her high-rise apartment building in New York City. The main character, Sarah, was abducted into a UFO hovering over her high-rise apartment building in New York City. Dan and Richard initially claimed to have been on a stakeout and were involved in a UFO abduction during early morning hours. Early in Night Eyes, 2 government agents were on a stakeout and became involved in a UFO abduction during early morning hours. Linda was kidnapped and thrown into a car by Richard and Dan. Sarah was kidnapped and thrown into a van by Derek and Merritt. Dan was hospitalized for emotional trauma. One of the government agents in Night Eyes was hospitalized for emotional trauma. During the kidnapping, Dan took Linda to a safe house. During the kidnapping, Derek took Wendy to a safe house. I think her name just changed. The safe house Linda visited was on the beach. In Night Eyes, one safe house was on the beach. Before her kidnapping, Linda contacted Bud Hopkins about her abduction. Before her kidnapping, Wendy contacted Charles Edward Starr about her abduction. It does go on, but I'm going to just leave that for your consideration there, that it's almost matching this book. Finally, let's talk about the Netflix documentary. Linda Napolitano and the estate of late author Bud Hopkins, who wrote the 1997 book Witness, the true story of the Brooklyn Bridge abduction, have sued Netflix for damages and asked a judge to halt the release of the Manhattan Alien Abduction, expected to hit the streamer October 30th. Napolitano and Hopkins' estate filed suit on Monday against Netflix, Top Hat Productions, several people involved in the docuseries production, and the estate of Carol Rainey, Hopkins' late ex-wife, who is featured in the documentary. The Netflix docuseries seems to include several participants, including Rainey, who pushed back Napolitano's claim she was abducted, and one unnamed participant is quoted in the trailer as saying she was pulling the wool over Bud's eyes during the book writing process. The complaint alleges Netflix allowed Rainey to play a prominent part in the docuseries as an expert skeptic in the field when she was instead allegedly an embittered alcoholic ex-wife hell-bent on revenge against her husband, who cast both Hopkins and Napolitano in negative light. Napolitano said she agreed to have her story portrayed by Netflix after she was promised only one interview with Rainey would be used and that the true story of her abduction would finally be presented, but was instead blindsided by a screening of the series in September. Napolitano claims the show sets her up as a villain for purposes of controversy and conflict, defames her persona and character, and that the Manhattan Alien Abduction will destroy her reputation as an honest and decent person. Netflix has not responded to the lawsuit in court as of Tuesday afternoon and did not immediately respond to Forbes' request for comment. That came from Forbes. It's going to be located in the episode notes. And that's the end of my 3-part Manhattan Abduction Journey to the Fringe series, dedicated to Michael.
Okay. So, basically where we're at is she definitely made the whole thing up, but we have to wait for the lawsuit to come out to confirm that.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, there's a lot going on for good alien lawsuits in the world right now. We got Corey Good.
There really is. We need to, I think we just need to do a roundup of UFO lawsuits in the next little while. That would be a great episode.
Yeah, I think we got a whole, as we do in most episodes that we don't write down, got a lot of juicy episode ideas coming out or written down, being thought about. Being put out into the world. Definitely
thought about. I don't know if any action's been taken from there, but man, do we have so many good episode ideas in the ether somewhere.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think overall?
Oh, I think it definitely sounds like a not a real case, but
yeah, I definitely think
it's one of those ones where I vaguely have heard that one before, and I'm kind of like, in the first episode, I kind of just followed it, like, instinctively. Like, yeah, this is the story. I've heard this part. Not paying too much attention. And as you're getting into the other guys, I wasn't paying too much attention, like, to the specificities. And then suddenly you're like, yeah, no, it makes total sense that she made the whole thing up.
I know. And I'm totally on par with you. Like, I recognize the story. It wasn't until I actually started sitting down to write the episode that I was like, holy shit, there are some blaring red flags going on here. It's
and really that's bad. Just like every time we sit down for one of those, like, oh, this will be a fun episode. It's like, nope, whole thing's fucking made up.
I had a great time putting this together, and I was like, this is just full of gems. And I'm going to get Taylor to read this. Here's the script, and then I sent it to you so that you can anticipate having a script on an episode that I put together. And yeah, that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Chelsea. And with that, I have been Taylor, here with Chelsea. We are Journey to the Fringe. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Journey to the Fringe. If you have liked what you have listened to, please like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on what venue you are listening to us through. Also, please, if possible, leave a 5-star review, as that really helps us in the algorithms. Should you wish to interact with us, please check us out on your social media of choice. I bet you we are there. And if you really want to communicate with us and give us ideas for new episodes, or tell us that we're wrong and terrible, either way, please send us an email at journeytothefringe@gmail.com. For now, I'll see you in the next episode.